trying to reword, and you'll see there's 3 stages to this. Look into clinical trials. If you want to move the reference, you can, and you can see it's credible, so you click OK. The notorious website. If you're like me, you haven't got time for a lot of these searching up. You know, we're all trying to get married out here, innit? Alhamdulillah. And on top of that, just before we begin the video, there's a Google Drive link at the bottom. It's essentially my deen journey. I explain it at the end of the video if you stay, inshallah. And with no further ado, if you want tuition, biology, chemistry, physics at A-level or GCSE, holla through. Peace.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا.
So hello there, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. It's Screen Star, first year medical student at Queen Mary University of London. Now, barring that long intro that no one cares about, it's essay time, and I know a lot of you guys don't know what to even include in the essay, and you probably have trauma from English GCSE. I know, because I had to take it twice, and then essentially a deadline's in 3 days, and no amount of Anki or Abdurrahman Hassan is gonna help you. So now you're probably panicking, and you're thinking, Allah sent someone my way, and qaddar Allahu wa ma sha fa'al. The YouTube algorithm recommends my video. And enough for this wacky introduction, let's actually get onto the video. So first and foremost, before we actually begin and I bring you onto the computer, one thing that I want to mention is that there will be timestamps at the bottom of the video, so skip to the segment that's relevant to you. But a lot of it is going to be relevant to you, so I'd encourage you to watch throughout the whole thing, and this isn't some sort of technique to get more watch time. I will also be describing 2 ways, one which is borderline cheating, but it's not cheating because I don't advocate that as a medical professional. The other way is the official way to do it, so I'm going to start off with the official way and then we'll get onto the quote-unquote cheating way, but inshallah, come with me on a computer. Now, one of the first things that I would tell you to do, or encourage you to do, you can probably see on screen right now, is have 2 Google Docs or that are open at the moment. So my internet works out well, then inshallah I'll be able to show you lot. So as it's loading, the reason why I say this is that yes, you can use Microsoft Word, that is something that you can use, but bearing in mind that you know, you might have some difficulty installing it. Majority of unis will give you a free subscription to that of Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. But again, you want to have your resources, your notes available to you. So if you're using another laptop for an instant, then you're not having syncing problems, and potentially the last update isn't the one that you've been working on. And on top of that, if you're cool like me, you don't know how to install it. Now, just a small caveat, the tips I use in my personal statement video is not the same as the one I'm using here, so don't try to mix both of them together. Now you're gonna write on the first one, essay notes, control tab to change between tabs, very basic. I'd say introduction on the first one, main body, and I'll explain everything, so don't, just stay with me. Conclusion, and obviously let's just say, now the title of the essay was discuss the regional modifications of the vertebrae and the joint. 3-4 categories in which your essay generalizes into. So in this case, because it's anatomy based, the cervical vertebrae, then the thoracic, then the lumbar, then the sacral, and that's the cocking. But for a general, you know, essay, then look into the categories that it splits up in. Now when you've done this section, I'm going to show you something. Now what you need to do is that with your title, you need to understand what the command words are first and foremost before any research. Discuss wants you to potentially show different sides, and in this case would be functions of the vertebra, and to bring a synthesis of information. Again, just Google up what discuss means, what argue means, what inform means, and understand the tone of what the essay is going to have. But nonetheless, you get the gist. Let me just make that bold. Focused on and the vertebrae and the joints. So there's 2 segments I can speak about. So now is the time that you look into your research. Now for medicine, one website that would, on the basis just getting accustomed to things, I'd say PubMed. So you go on PubMed, whatever, so on and so forth. The reason why I say PubMed, I'll explain in a bit, but if you use other websites, your grade is going to get shanked. You're going to come out with like 50%. Reason being is that medicine requires, you know, latest information, clinical excellence, and they don't want to have those wishy-washy news round. I don't know why this come back to my head. See BBC? Yeah, that's just been timed. That's actually disturbing. BBC bite size, you can't use these websites. So in this case, I would write on a basic level, vertebral column, or the vertebrae, any of them two. Essentially written what you've written. You can see that I probably looked up some of them. Go on to display options, check for best match. That's first and foremost. What you want to also do is that if you go to the sides, you should be able to click for a review. The difference between a review and, for example, that of a clinical trial, that review is basically a synthesis of information that a person's compiled from other clinical trials. So on the get-go, I would say start with that. Now in this case, it says analysis of the load of the knee joint and the vertebral column, which changes in squatting depth and load. Now that's more to do with, what you call it, that of being in the gym essentially. But I just want to show you development mechanisms of the intervertebral disc and the vertebral column formation. Let's just say I wanted to go on this, for example. So now you see, you only get a small segment of what you actually require. So you might be a little bit confused, like, what am I meant to do with this information? This is what you do. Now, if you've seen the top right hand side of the, essentially the website, you can see Willy full text article. So you load it up, you got good internet connection, then you won't be waiting any longer. So you should be able to have the article in front of you. Now you want to read this properly, right? So there should be options like that of the PDF. Let's just say I open that in another link. And they try to make you pay for it, which is a madness. But many a times you're allowed to actually download it and it should be fine. But there are websites I'm going to show you now. You have access, or you will be allowed to see this article for free. Is it legal? Obviously I don't encourage illegal stuff, but I'm just showing you for educational purposes how to get access to this. And so now you're at a paywall, and this is common when it comes to papers. I'm not telling you to pay for any papers, so heads up, just don't do that sort of stuff. I'd say go on a website. You can write SkyHub, Google extension. That's one thing that I would tell you, know of. Then go onto SkyHub now, and you can see over 30,000 users, so you know it's legit. Add it on, and essentially it should give you roughly how it works, and it will be self-explanatory. You can see it on some of the reviews as well as YouTube videos. So inshallah, I would say look into SkyHub and have that available to you when you're looking throughout this process. It's the case that in this case you have to pay for the article, but for many they're free and you're able to download it. A way to refine your search is also, if you go back and you put here, you put free papers, free full text, it will be very little, but for example in this case, anatomy of the back, you can go that to the segment that it requires. Let's see, I'm going to delete the other ones. In this case the whole article is there, and so you could read through it. And remember, only thing that I would tell you as per the moment, I would say copy the link address just so you have essentially where you're going. Copy that down. If you find it to be the article that you really want to speak about, one of the articles that you want to speak about, this is what you do. You put the link in, and then there's a reason why I'm saying this, and you go to the article and you start reading. So you've read the whole article, now you want to take segments that you never knew, and remember they're referencing as well. So for example here, becomes the adult brain and the caudal end becomes the spinal cord. If I touch this, I have the reference that's here. Remember, this reference is also in PubMed, so you see the title right here. If you was to copy this down and go into PubMed and you was, for example, to do this, you should come up with the article. So congenital abnormalities, I click on it and I found the article. And so by checking a review article, you're able to have access to the research that they've already done for you. So you don't need to go onto the clinical papers and do that long-winded behavior, especially as it's available to you. So don't waste your time on it as of such. So read what you need to read, and then here, copy it down, and then paste it in that as the introduction, for example, if that's what you want to include. The next part, you go back to the article, keep reading, you like something, you're going to copy this down. Okay, I like this as well. And remember, it doesn't have to be everything with a reference at the moment. So now you've done it again, maybe you get another statement, whatever, so on and so forth. You see what's referenced, and if it's referenced, then you just quickly go to the link, wherever it is, copy it, and paste it for now. Copy and paste it, place it in here, or wherever the reference was. Let me just quickly grab that. Copy. Once you've quickly pasted it, let's just say I'm gonna label it A just so I know which one it is. This is just for clarity at the moment, so bear with me. Because remember, not everything that you're doing in the research phase you're going to use in your essay. So have that in mind and keep going through it. So for example, once you've done this process for one review article, look for other points that they've mentioned, something that's going to give you a big juicy essay that you can speak about. So I'd say look onto like 3 to 4 review articles. After you've done that and now you've got some very good points, you want to look into clinical trials, you can. And then what I would encourage is to look at the clinical trials that they've presented with already. Look at them, read them, so that your perspective is very narrow in a good way. So you're not looking at a vast ocean of papers where you will just you know, wallahi, it will just turn into a madness for you. So I would say look at the articles, read them, link them, take quotes from them, and that sort of behavior, and inshallah ta'ala, you know, it'll be the one for you. So once you've done that, you should have a rather decent portion of information. I would show you what I done. Now, just in case I wasn't clear, when I say go get the link, I don't mean go get this link, yeah? So just heads up, guys. I mean literally go to this link, grab this link, inshallah, and then use it later on. And that's what I encourage. Don't be using this link, heads up. So the reason why is when we get onto the referencing software, you'll see what I mean. Now, on top of that, you'll see a couple of people that are encouraging you to download the files. I don't really encourage that at all. The reason why I don't is, like I've said before, when you download the file, you're constricted to that laptop, constricted to the files on the laptop, unless you're carrying around a USB stick. Again, you can put it on drive. That is something you can do. But again, that's a little bit of hassle. Just have the link there available to you. So it's just easier, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I would encourage. Again, up to you. Now, after you finish the segment with that of the review notes, this is what you do, inshallah. So go back onto PubMed. Let's just say you do the vertebral column again. Vertebral column. I can't text or type while not looking at the keyboard very good. So now you change it from the review to that of the clinical trials. And again, you want it to be free and full text on the basis that you don't want to be paying for some stupid stuff. Not stupid, but guys, when I say this sort of stuff, it's just the way I speak. It's not that I'm casting medicine or anything like that before my med pro teacher sees this. So as right now, I don't see nothing that's ish relevant. Maybe I want to refine my search. Maybe I'm going to write something like the thoracic spine. Remember, there's, like I've said, 5 segments of my essay. So I'm just waiting for this to load. Literally right now, the moment the internet stops working, it's quite peak. Wallahi, time to eat flapjack. Wallahi, flapjack's the one though, wallahi. Tesco mini bites, Lidl mini bites, oof. Astaghfirullah, wallahi, ask Allah for this in Jannah, bro. Now, once the thoracic spine essentially is loaded, this is what you do, inshallah. So you're looking at it, and remember, all of these are clinical trials. So you go onto them, you try to read them, click the link, and you see what's relevant. Right now, the reason why I've chosen this is because from the get-go, except cookies, so they can get my information. The reason why I've chosen this is because with spine mobilization, it's going to talk about joints. So whether that be the unduloid process of the C2 joint, that sort of stuff. So I know roughly what I'm looking at. Now, one thing to highlight to you is that as per what the essay is, you've probably been asked something similar, especially if it's medicine, or you've had lectures on somewhat closer to the topic. So in this case, we've had a lesson on that of the vertebra. So the different segments, but we haven't had an in-depth lesson. So essentially, it was a very broad coverage of the vertebra, and so in the essays and the mark schemes that they give you, you have an idea of how to essentially approach the question in order to bag full marks on it. And a part of the way to bag full marks on it is to have a synthesis of sources whereby you're not just using the information in that of the lecture. So that's the reason why you go to clinical trials, because like I said, otherwise you'll be capped at 50%. So now we go on to the segment where we're actually using the essay as well as that of the essay notes. So I'd say split screen it on a basis, you know, drag it to the side of the screen that's relevant. Oh no, you saw my screen recording software. Okay, so inshallah, let's go on to what I was doing. Essay. Alright, so what you're gonna try to do is skillfully try to reword what essentially you have the essay notes on. So the first is talking about the 7 vertebrae designed from C1 to C7. They're just regional position markers, so there's nothing mad. So don't get confused as per such. So the essay, I'm essentially going to begin making and remember, I'm not trying to write the full essay, I'm trying to reword, and you'll see there's 3 stages to this, but inshallah it will pay off. So skillfully reword it, just be like, so for example, in this case it would be, so you can see roughly what I'm doing. I'm not writing the same thing, I'm trying to come up with my own words, and by doing that you won't be clocked for plagiarism. Now on top of that, you're getting information, you're going to use the references. Now let's just say I've carried on and I'm going to paste my essay so far of what I've done onto this segment so that you can see roughly how I actually began my essay. Okay, so guys, this is basically how I began my essay. So back pain is quoted as being the single greatest causes of disability, hindering many from engaging with everyday activities and the greatest reason given to missed days of work. It affects an approximate 8 million adults in the UK, consequently costing the NHS 10 billion annually, whilst a great emphasis is placed on the treatment of conditions. Oh no, I actually submitted this, wallahi, so that was a shambolic sentence and a half. Well, it is what it is, man. Well, I can't complain. But anyway, the first reference, I had a reference. Now, in this case, I was using the Vancouver method. So there was a reference. So for example, now in this case, I have, let's go on to one of the articles that we read. So I'm going to copy the link of the article and I'm going to go onto a software by the name of MyBib. You're going to have to sign up and it's for free, so don't worry as of such. And I found this to be one of the best ones that I used. So these were the 14 references that I actually used, or 16 because you have to reference the images as well. So what you do is you go onto the account, you click add reference, and now you paste the URL that I was talking about. So for example, now I click search. You can see the item essentially pops up and you can see it's credible, so you click OK. All of this should be done for you. It might ask you, for example, if you're using Grey's Anatomy, the book with the images of the anatomy, that is known, I think it was 1825 because I had to type it in so many times. So you also, date published, if you don't know where it is, you don't know where it is, because sometimes it just takes it from the article. Sometimes it may also ask you for date accessed, but it doesn't. Okay, so you're good to go. Now, there's a default referencing, essentially, that's taking place. So if you go up here, right here where my mouse is, you can see where it says the Vancouver style. I can change it to that of, or essentially this is the Vancouver style. If I wanted to change it, I would click up here, Vancouver style, and I could change it to whatever I want. So whether that's Harvard, these are the standards that some people use, or any other referencing type that you need. So you shouldn't really worry about, I need to include this, I didn't order it properly. So once you've essentially have the outline of the essay done and now you've pinpointed which references are for which, because remember, sometimes you can put one here and then also later on in the essay use that same one later down, but it comes in order, the differences references, or differences in referencing, or the differences in the references. That's what I should have said. So the first is there and the second is there. Now you go back onto one of your other documents and see what the references was. You place in the link, and at the bottom of the article, this is what you're going to do. So let's go on to that of the actual essay. Or let me just show you in this case. I'll do this. Let's just say now it's the segment at the bottom, right at the bottom of the essay. So imagine there's massive amounts of space. Let me go on to like another page to almost like simulate that. Okay. So it's there, references. Now I go down and I go onto my bib, and what I want to do is, for example, once the new reference comes up, and this is reference 17, the one that we were talking about, I click show options and I copy bibliography entry. So sorry, my reading is disgusting, you can probably tell. Check out my UCAT video right at the beginning, I made a caveat. So here's your references, or one of your references in the style of the Vancouver system, so you shouldn't be penalized. And the good thing about it is that it does say 17, but in this case you change it to 1. It orders it for you, and the good thing about having it like this is that you can change the order of the references, which is the good thing. So for example, if you wanna move the reference, you can. So that's the reason why I stick to this method. Now, obviously the segment that a lot of you guys have been waiting for, the cheating section. But yeah, inshallah, and to be fair, a lot of you guys are probably not even here anymore. So yeah, speak. But labas, if I help one person, I'm good. So let's get on to the segment about cheating.
ذلك بما قدمت يداك وأن الله ليس بظلام للعبيد ومن الناس من يعبد الله على حرف فإن أصابه خير اطمأن به وإن أصابته فتنة انقلب على وجهه خسر الدنيا والآخرة ذلك هو الخسران المبين يدعو من دون الله ما لا يضره ولا ينفعه ذلك هو الضلال البعيد يدعو لمن ضره أقرب من نفعه لبئس المولى ولبئس العشير إن الله يدخل الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار إن الله يفعل ما يريد.
Now, if you guys skip to the cheating section, I have to go back and watch the official way of doing it. So, trust me, there's skills that you get from that, and there's certain information that you'll get by doing that and not get via this method. So please bear that in mind. Now, the way to actually do it is that a notorious website. If you're like me, you haven't got time for a lot of these searching up, a lot of this extra information stuff. So, you know, we're all trying to get married out here, innit? We gotta work. So, Wikipedia, you know, rookie, but it works, I'm telling you, and you'll bear why. Usually, for many of your days, you'll probably be like, I got told never to use Wikipedia. Well, time to start changing that mind. Thoracic vertebrae. So yeah, it gives you a breakdown. Now the good thing about Wikipedia is that everyone will references, man. So if they don't take it. And remember, a lot of this information you should know as it is. So you'll find out what's relevant to you, what information you want to include, and you'll copy and then paste. I don't need to show you how to paste. So you look for specific information about the superior articular surfaces, inferior articular surfaces, then you look at the references. The references should be that at the bottom. You can look up to where they're pointing. So it says, for example, the thoracic vertebra composed of the middle segment of the vertebra between the cervical and the lumbar vertebrae. There's a reference right there. If I go to the reference, you can see it's to do with Gray's Anatomy. Click on Gray's Anatomy. It should take, usually it will take you to the link. I'm going to show you another one. I'll show you Gray's Anatomy in a bit there, because this hasn't been referenced properly. So hymen, whatever, or hymen. Hymen. Why do I remember that? Okay, anyway, so on. Let's say I go on to archives, probably not the best website, so I'm gonna go back to what I was looking at. Right now, it's what I'm trying to show you, it's not coming up with the best ones. Let's just say I go onto that of the generic vertebrae then. So go onto the onto a reference that I'm looking at. They've done this. Let's go on this link, DOI. It should take me. Okay. This is an official article that you can see. I'll copy this link and then I'll use it in my bib. So, you know, I'm not saying that those that are marking, they might check a few references. So if you slap this one right in the middle, they might not be able to clock. Just remember the title is normal. And again, I'm not encouraging you to cheat. I'm just showing you that there's information in there, but have you checked all of it though? That's the real question. Again, I don't encourage cheating. Oh, Abu Tarab scored at me. This is what I do to him. I don't pick up because I'm recording. Okay, so now you go onto my bib. Again, use the same thing that I was telling you. You place the link in, you check the reference, and to show you that it does work, I'm going to paste it in, and I'm going to search, and I'm going to see it's credible. So the information that's given there is credible, and so as a result, if it's similar to the context that is given in Wikipedia, you use it. And by doing so, you get a collection that you paste in that of your essay notes. And by filling this up, then again you can transfer it onto essay notes in your words or your essay. Then the other Word document that you create, you just amalgamate everything together, and by doing so, inshallah ta'ala, your essay will be smooth. You'll be done in a space of potentially 1 day. If you've got 3 days left and you're done by 1 day and you're able to review it by the next, then it should go well, inshallah ta'ala. Remember, always make your dua and get help from the seniors, because what's the ayah in Surah Anbiya? فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. That's the one. And so now to end the video, I'm going to go on to one of the last points that I wanted to mention. Now, generically when it comes to writing, because there's a whole ton of tips that you need to go through when writing your essay. First and foremost, you PubMed, like I've told you, read the review papers and save the papers by number if you need to reference them. You need to also reference where you got it from. Remember, my bib will do that for you. The second stage is to look at the clinical trials, and I've told you about that. Now when it comes to that, to the generic tips, let me just move this up. Make sure that the ending, let me just zoom in for you, make sure that the ending of the paragraph has an amazing flow onto that of the next paragraph. By that, what do I mean? So let's just say you're talking about that, the cervical vertebrae, which is the higher upper portion of the vertebra. You want to mention vertebrals, this is X, and then X links onto Y, and at the end of the paragraph you mention, just before where it finishes, you mention, actually, well, some of the last words, the cervical region, anastomosis, that's probably not the right word, articulates with the upper thoracic T1 vertebra. And now for the very next paragraph, how do you begin? The thoracic region composes of, so that you see that between the paragraphs it links, and that's what you want. The reason why you want that is so that they're constantly reading on, and also you get marks via the coherency from what I've understood. Another thing is to remove personal pronouns, and I'm just going to quickly bold this so you guys can remember that. You have to remove personal pronouns. It's a must, just so it sounds more formal. So for example, instead of saying I will conduct the experiment, or you should say the experiment sets out to discuss. Now one other thing that I would say is that try not to use do. So for example, don't say I will do an experiment. Say the experiment aims to conduct, and by doing so you're removing do. There's a few other tips I'm going to mention, is that as per the aspects of the title, make sure you're linking back and you're trying to answer the question at the end of every paragraph. So potentially, in that of discussing the regional modifications, cervical region articulates with that of the upper thoracic T1 vertebrae. Just before that sentence, I'm going to say, maybe I've written like 5 lines in between, so I'm just going to signify it with an X. And as per that last region, I'm going to say, just as per the explanation, thus showing the regional modification to this region in allowing for lateral rotation, something stupid like that, and the ability to turn your head due to the bonding between a C1 and a C2 atlantoaxial joint and the pivot point joint. I think it's pivot joint. So nonetheless, you're linking it back to the title of the essay, and the essay was the regional modifications of that of the vertebrae, so do bear that in mind, inshallah ta'ala. That being said, I think remember also do the lectures that you need to do. Remember that to keep yourself out of it, and on top of that, I think that's about it. I think that should have guided you on how to do it very, very quickly. Even though this video was mega long, inshallah ta'ala, you probably benefit from it. Because I wish, I saw this video earlier, or a video that would give me all this information. And yes, by some Asian dude. Or Arab dude, that's what you want to call it, but I just call myself Asian or Somali. Oh Allah, hey. And so you guys, you made it to the end of the video. Alhamdulillah, I hope you guys have benefited more so than you may have enjoyed me putting faces in the middle of everything. However, so as per the section that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I talked about the deen journey. So if you're finding yourself constantly just being afloat, so by that I mean it's just you're on a iman high, then you're on a really iman low, and then you're having difficulty with everything other than that of the prayer, and you're basically just floating and you feel like you want to improve, then inshallah seeking knowledge is a part of the stages, because Allah says يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ, I think it is. That Allah raises those from amongst you who believe, then upon that is those that have been given knowledge. So essentially I've compiled a very humble, my own journey. It's nothing that's, this is what level you get to scholar, nothing like that. I'm closer to that of a shaitan than I am of a sheikh. And wallahi, it's not me being humble, because I honestly believe I'm probably a munafiq. So you know what I'm saying, inshallah ta'ala this does benefit. So you should see like a ton of ebooks on screen as it is at the moment. And with that, inshallah ta'ala, assalamu alaikum, peace.